St. Louis, Missouri, home of the Gateway Arch, which really impressed me when I was a kid.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Well, hello everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad, and this is the continuation of my cross-country journey. I am outside of St. Louis, in front of a Goodwill. I happened to pull off the freeway for food, and this Goodwill is right here, so I have to look. Well, this certainly is a big one, and a fairly new one, so maybe we'll find something here. Gee, I could use a pair of Vans, and 20 bucks is a great price, but they're a size 10, and I am not. There's a Coach bag. Don't see anything old in the game section particularly. In fact, so far I'm not really seeing much old at all, but we'll take a look at the prints here. This looks like some sort of a painting. A print, actually, of the painting. Let's see if there's anything that looks like it might be a little more valuable or hasn't been opened. But it looks to me like these have all been seen. Books don't look old either. Now this is a pretty new suburban area, but I would think that maybe there'd be something old in this place. So far I've seen nothing. As busy as it is, looks like it's mainly about new stuff. I am not seeing anything vintage so far at all. This looks like somebody's ceramic project. It's a Jeff Hornsby original. Maybe we'll find something in this section. This gal did. Yep, they've got the Afghan market cornered, and that really is the market here. I don't see anything else that's old, but at least they found something. I do not seem to be. Well, Jeffrey at Real Nifty Vintage always says that the Goodwills are full of new stuff and nothing interesting and old, and I would say based on that one that he's right about the ones in the St. Louis area. In a store that is getting this kind of volume of donations every day, it is hard to believe there's not one old thing or one piece of costume jewelry. I suspect they go somewhere else. From the dash cam at dusk, Kansas City. We made it across Missouri in one day. Missouri is just chock full of antique malls, especially along the I-40 corridor between Kansas City and St. Louis. I usually stop at some, you've seen me film at some, but I didn't stop this time, and I didn't stop at any other thrift stores or any place because I wanted to get here while it's still open. These places are just huge, so you're going to see that they have names for the different lanes, Armadillo Drive being one of them. This place is really vast, and I have a certain amount of time I can spend here, but I don't have a ton of time because I have to drive all the way to Spokane in the next 3 days. I like the hood ornament at $69.75. The Viking glass is not going to lose its top. They certainly have that taped down. I always have mixed feelings about that because it's not great for display, but I realize that things get broken, so I especially don't like seeing tape on top of carnival glass because that iridescence can be affected by that. Stickers on carnival glass on the surface, not a good idea either. Ding Dong School Bell. That was a TV show for kids back in the 1950s on NBC, says so right there. This place has a great enamel sign, a great chevron sign. They're starting to have sales on signs. I find that interesting. And some of these vendors, this one's nice, but you know, $400 is a more realistic price for it. So I'm glad to see some dealers, even dealers who have cool stuff, are starting to be more realistic about the prices. I was just having this conversation with the gal who runs the Twin Lakes Antique Mall in Kentucky, and you know, it's a tough thing because a lot of people remember the pricing of 30 years ago, and certain things were more expensive then. In the time before eBay, things were not distributed as evenly or available as readily, and so The perception of scarcity was greater, and that's why prices were higher. It's just a market thing. It's okay. We all move on. We know what the prices should be now. Let's move forward. Now, I've had a lot of Seattle World's Fair stuff. I was a big collector for a long time. I still have a small collection that I really prize. I haven't seen this particular color of this graphic before, and I haven't seen it on this Irish linen. That's a little different. If it did not have the hole, I would buy it for that fact. Now, I'm not saying that it's rare. Again, let's be careful of the use of the word rare, but it is scarcer, and for whatever reason, they just don't come up as much. They want $18.95. Lone Star Beer in Texas was not stupid about understanding they have a Hispanic market, and so in 1966, here is Cerveza Lone Star. This one is $28.95. If it was in better condition, I'd consider it, because she's got a great look. I have always liked novelty postcards. They just are such a kick. I wonder if my friend Dave, who does the antique advertising, has been through this particular store. I like spaces like this. It's very graphic. It's colorful to it too. You can store things like your other collections in these sorts of containers, and they just are really neat. I just enjoy the look a lot. I know everybody and their brother is into fans now, but this is a good style. This is from about 1950. Look at this Art moderne lettering. That will give you a clue. Anywhere from the mid-30s to the early 50s, you would see that design. Designs, of course, became very modern in the 30s because they were trying to attract people during the Depression, and then they didn't change much during the Second World War because people were occupied with more important concerns. I like this old bluebird tile. If it's old, it's certainly got an interesting handmade, almost arts and crafts feel to it. If that's an old piece, I would buy that. I wonder if this is okay to open. Okay, I guess it is. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, it's a more modern artist tile. I still think it's nice, and for $15, it's probably well worth it. I bet somebody could resell that for a profit, but I like to stick to vintage because that's just my role. Scottish, 1987. They got it in Crieff and brought it back. It's got an interesting modernist feel to it, and the bottle appears to also be Scottish. That would be something new for me. I haven't had Scottish ceramics in the modern era, and it's only $16.75. You know, I think I'm going to get that. Barware sells, and this has a look. It'd be good in a farmhouse setting. Yeah. So it's Portobello, Scotland. That's the name of the ceramic. I have a hunch that this is pretty good, but I can check it out now that I can read the name better. So 64 items have sold under Portobello pottery on eBay, and not one of them was this jug, so I'm getting it. In addition to Blue Danube and Blue Onion and a lot of similarly styled transferware from the 1970s and 80s and even the early 90s, they did a lot of enamel pots and things to go with them, and so you can put together a whole set if you like this pattern. The prices are pretty good right now because a lot of these are just starting to come out of collections from 40 years ago. Well, there's the 1980s for you, at least I think this little picture. Cantina ware. Not a mark I've ever seen before, but the style is Art Deco, and yet it's not an old mark or an old piece. These are Japanese, also from about 1980. Another odd bottle from the English Isles, the Mecca. Grimwades, yes, that's related to Royal Winton. Hot water bottle. The dog is an embellishment by someone else. This probably was sold during the war years because they were not able to decorate anything during the war years. They had much tighter restrictions because the situation was so dire for them. It all had to go to the war effort. We sell Seal of Indiana Flower. Let's see if this is real, because there's a lot of fakes that were done in the 90s of these old signs. Well, this one, it has real staining. It has real damage. The surface seems right. It's not glossy. It looks like they have not fake aged it. A lot of the ones done in the 90s as reproductions are very dark around the edge and then they get very light. See how this original one, the edges, it's more varied. and there's other evidence of having sat somewhere for a long time. It's interesting to me that these dealers seem to have this poster. This is in the very first video I ever did on YouTube. If you want to look at somebody who really didn't know what he was doing in front of a camera, well, that's a fun one. But every time I see these, I buy them for $30 and immediately double my money. So I'm taking this one too. They must have a warehouse they're emptying. This is 1964, by the way, because no Surgeon General's warning. And I bet the reason that they have a bunch of these is because the Surgeon General said you have to put the warning on, and they just said, oh well, and didn't distribute all of them. But they're cool looking, and yeah, I'll take that. This dealer with the tins and advertising has been here a long time, and he gets cool stuff. It's all about condition. This is a neat piece here, $75. If it was in perfect condition, no paint, no rust, well then it might be worth 25% more. Sometimes it makes a huge difference. It can make the difference between a few dollars and hundreds of dollars. So look for condition with these. The cleaner the better in terms of value. Okay, this is the kind of kitsch I like. Tacky and yet unrefined. Falstaff came from St. Louis, so we see these around here. Worlds of Fun must have been a local Kansas City attraction, or maybe still is. I'll have to look into that. Since I don't have retail sales or currently any shows around here, although I would like to do Sparks, Kansas again. But I don't have anything currently planned, so I'm not buying things specific to this area. Ooh, look at that. Original Melmac, 1950s. Square dishes, you know, I like square. 47 pieces, $125. It's only $3 each, actually. These are pretty fabulous. These are by Stetson. Stetson made regular ceramics. They made the Rio pattern of ceramic dinnerware that's hand-painted that I have at my house. But they also made a whole lot of other stuff. These are marked Harmony House, though, so it looks like maybe the bowls are a marriage. Nonetheless, they look cute. I think the original bowls, come to think of it, would have been square as well. But there's the Harmony House. That was through Sears. Talk of the Town was the name of the pattern. It's one of the better patterns of Melmac. It and Alf came from the same planet. Let's see here. Yellow 50s kitchenware. I just love anything bright yellow for the kitchen. There are plenty of kitchens that's a big happy pop of color. They also say yellow and orange make you hungrier, and that's why a lot of fast food places are painted those colors. Ooh, Camark flower frog. This is not a very common piece of Camark, and they are correct about the identification. I don't know if there's a sticker or if they just knew or have the book, the old collector's reference, but I can tell by the way the glaze puddles, the holes in the frog always seem a little hand done and a little uneven. There's a little crack there, but it is a firing crack from the factory. It's not damage. That might be a problem for some collectors, though, but I think it's really cute. It's $20. I have to say that's tempting to me. There we go. I have to be very careful. I can't really go crazy with a lot of big items because I just have very little room in the car. I'm going to send something for someone. It's a large item, and so I'm sending it from a place closer to where she lives rather than my usual home office. So once that leaves the car, I'll have some more room. This is cool. Old Dunlop tire sign. That should be from the 1930s. In fact, they said 1938. That sounds right. $3.75. Cardboard is starting to become collectible because the metal and backlit signs and the neons are all so up there in price that cardboard is the next thing. Sometimes these are not expensive yet, though, if you're looking for the sign. And if you're looking for a sign, this one is $55, though, which is a little more than I get for these. But sometimes you'll still see these for $10 or $15, and they're worth getting. They're from the early 80s machines. It's a shame that old Angus has his arm chewed off, because that is actually a pretty neat paper mache piece, but that's why it's only $95. It could be restored, and it could be amazingly restored, but it would cost money. A carnation product for all livestock, calf manna. Interesting. So they use something essentially the same as this tire stand to hold calf manna in a bottle. I guess that makes sense. It's kind of the same shape. The $175 price and the $195 price have to do with scarcity. Both of these are fairly hard pieces to find. These were reproductions, or I should say, I don't know, fantasy items, revival pieces. This is in the time frame where Roy Rogers rides off into the sunset, and because of that, there was a lot of nostalgia, and people wanted their old little Roy Rogers toy guitar, whether they had one originally or not. This one's priced at $55. That's about what they usually price, and it's because they are not from the 50s. These are Chicago World's Fair Scenic coasters in a tray, and I'm betting that this was from an Eastern European exhibit. Let's see if it says. Well, maybe it was from the US, because it does not refer to a particular country. I like this set. The Art Deco World's Fair. That's part of the reason people still collect this stuff today. Let's see if there's any country of origin on it. There is not. $30. It might sell for double. How do we evaluate this piece? It's got 4 coasters. Closed sales on coasters seem to be $15 a piece from the 1934 Chicago World's Fair, so it doesn't stand to reason that we could sell 4 of them for $60. I'm thinking so because the overall condition is good. I'm thinking so because there's nothing like this currently offered online. And it's another World's Fair that I've collected, and another piece from a World's Fair that I haven't seen. So I'm going to go ahead and take a chance on this one and hope that they give a dealer discount so that there's a little more room in it. These are only $5 for the pair. They're from about 1940, 1950, somewhere in there. These were built in as pieces on top of the stoves. That's why these have a stain, because they've been in a greasy environment long enough. So unfortunately, even though $5 is a good price, I will be leaving them, but they are something you will see out there, and that's where they came from. Okay, behind the Space Age Nun, I see this little hairy guy here. This looks like something from the 70s or 80s. My mother used to pick, and this would have been the kind of thing she'd have picked up, especially if it was $4. So you know what? I think I'm going to make sure this is not a crack. Oh, but he's got a chip on his foot. Nah, I'm going to leave him. These, as a child, I remember thinking were the height of tackiness. They are lawnwear swag lamps from the 1970s, and yeah, $20 is a great price because they sell for about $50. It looks like it's got the original plug and everything. It needs a few little beads, but those are actually not hard to get or expensive, so yeah, it might come with me. Then there's this, somebody's travels. Wow, that looks like about where I've been. Well, this may be too big a bargain to pass up. This is Ruby Red Provincial, known by most collectors as Bubble, by Anchor Hawking, done around 1960. It's got that polka dot thing going on. It's a really rich color. It's only $12.95. I think even these days, they're still going to sell for a good premium over that. Teapots, that's Taylor Smith Taylor. That's a fun shape. So's the Red Wing Capistrano. Now that is a pretty good price. I've always liked this little finial that looks like an ice cream cone. Strangely enough, it's painted with the Capistrano pattern, which is fruit and birds, but, you know, we were having fun in the 50s. So I want to point this out. This is a nice space with nice stately things. It's well organized. It's certainly merchandised a lot more cleanly and more easy to shop than the way I do it. So I have to say that I think they're doing a nice job. But in the middle of there is that pitcher. Everything else is pretty much retail price. I've got to be careful about space in the car, but I can put things in there. Now let's look at little things like all this giant advertising right in front of me that I like. That is a very cute little flapper posing for Rexall. The skirt is relatively high, so this is during the glory days of the 1920s, right before the Depression. Very cute bathing cap. I'm sure the bathing cap is worth some money, and I'm sure this is too. It should be fumigated to get top value. That can be done. That'll get the foxing out, but it's expensive, and they can also fix these stains. But you have to figure out whether you think the piece is worth putting that effort into. And at $7.95, I would say no. Unless you're buying it because you love it, in which case, yes. I like these open house signs from about 1960. The Medallion Home was a particular promotion where they were trying to build homes that were all electric. And it was General Electric, of course, who was behind that. The signs were made close to here, St. Louis, Missouri, and the price on this is $110. Sometimes you'll see these around for cheap because some houses from that era that are on the market now have these sitting in the basement that were never put on. These are 1950s, but they are not, repeat, not lucite. They're a very nice faux tortoise shell plastic. Also 1950s, but I believe it was Estee Lauder who use these as little kits. It's $40. That is about exactly the right price. Ooh, if you were a cool tomboy in the early 1970s, you might have this bike. This is a nice little Schwinn Stingray, and it's called the Fair Lady. I'll show you that on the other side. It looks like it's all original. There's the Stingray on the banana seat. Yes, they were trying to be cool like choppers were cool, and you know, I think they kind of hit it. And bike collectors seem to as well. This is priced at $230, even though it's girls, which are usually more common than the boys because they lasted longer. It's a good enough model. I think that is actually a very fair price. Tony can have his sign back for $500. Now, I've got to be careful of time, and I've been here over an hour already. I've only gotten down about 4 or 5 aisles. I have a nice little pile growing. I am going to go to the showcases where it's more likely that I'll find small things, which is what I really should be looking for in the first place. The one on the left is the 1950s Mercury, the very pretty bird, $85, and $95 on the right. That's a 56 Ford hood ornament. And you see the Mack Bulldog to the right, $75. And I have to admit, I loved toy cars as a kid. I loved old ones, new ones, and in-between ones, and I still feel that way about them. I'd be happy to collect any of this stuff. These are mainly collector prices, but they're neat pieces to see in such good condition. I'm looking for Fenton, particularly small items and novelties to take to the convention in July. But I want to be careful about my prices because there's going to be a lot of people there selling it. These prices are all retail, but they're nice pieces. Kitty cat tin litho plates from about 1910. I liked car parts when I was a kid. Here's a bunch of horn centers, the buttons for the old horns. There's a Mack white Freightliner, so these are from Trucks International, St. Louis, and Peterbilt. My sister's boyfriend had the foot pedal and parking brake pedal on his 50s era Ford back in about 1970. Thought he was kind of a jerk, but I think they're cool. It's so funny that something that was done as a retro throwback, The Christmas Story, has spawned collectibles from The Christmas Story. I've seen the miniature lady lamp legs for sale. In fact, I have one for sale for a consignor, but those are contemporary, and I'm sure this is too. It's a red lady lamp leg vase. Fragile. It must be Italian. I'm betting it's not Italian. Metz beer was out of Nebraska, I believe. Yes, Omaha. But it is something that for some reason, this particular barrel I've seen all over the country for sale. So there must have been a bunch of them made up that didn't end up being used. I'm not sure what happened to Metz beers, but I'll bet there's a story connected to that. In any event, $45 is about what I get for them too. These tear catchers, used as scent bottles, are Victorian glass. They are really nicely painted. They're $55 to $95. All perfectly fine prices for what they are. It's an interesting and very specific area to collect. They can be used for fragrance if they're stored in a proper manner, but most people just like to look at them. Now they have some nice beadwork in here. They say on the left is Sioux quilled knife sheath from the 1930s. Those colors and the quality of the tanning make me think maybe 1950s, but I am not expert on Sioux. The center sheath there with the old look and the beading in the blue and turquoise and orange is Cheyenne. And it looks like it's probably early 1900s, maybe pre-souvenir era, in which case it could be quite spendy. I noticed that the prices they have on these reflect some knowledge and awareness of the values of these pieces. The moccasins are Crow, circa 1900, also really before souvenir era. This is when they're just being forced on the reservations after winning the battle against Custer at Little Bighorn. And they identify the later patriotic bird, the eagle with the spread wings, as being Sioux. That's a fun design. This is a nice springy display of blue and green together. A lot of this is vintage 1910 pattern glass. You've got the Northwood Daisy footed bowl in the back corner there. Some of it is later. That looks like probably check, because the Fenton ruffle is a little more precise than that. The green nappy may fluoresce under a black light. That looks like a tiara piece. Jefferson Glass made the green ruffled bowl in front there. The Tokyo Compote, I believe, is also Northwood, as is this dish here. The prices are not bad on these, $15 to $20. And most of this green does not fluoresce. Some of it would probably surprise you. I'm not going to go through it because I don't really have room for a bunch of glass unless it's something truly amazing. And actually, these are very pretty pieces, but I'm just going to see what else they've got first. Okay, so all of this glass, the Duncan Caribbean on the chrome stand, the Fostoria Jamestown, and the Colony with the swirl, all of these different patterns. These all are elegant glassware that used to sell for $8 or $10 a piece. There's even one candlestick. It is $1 each. Somebody can make money on this stuff. Crystal isn't going to be completely slow in the market forever if you pick selectively. A lot of this is very sturdily made and can really take everyday use a lot better than new stuff that's thin. This bottle is $15. I'm betting it's because they probably didn't get away with that. I like the grizzly brake lining advertising on this rack here. And then from a store, ooh, look, Kraft French dressing with all the vegetables, thankfully fake ones. Here's some jewelry, and it looks like it's good quality. The Weiss piece here, the fall colors are fine, but the square shape is a little too rigid for a lot of people, so $37.50 is really all it's worth. Fostoria made several different compotes with these crowns in the 1970s, and they're all worth pretty good money. This one's priced at $100. Well, they've got a clock dealer in here. He's got some old regulators up there. The kitchen clocks, like this one right above me. Seth Thomas mantle clock. It says he's doing all the servicing, so that's nice. You get it and you're able to use it right away. I like this kitchen clock. It's $178.50. You know, the market for these isn't what it used to be, but look how graceful and delicate that design on the door is with the exotic birds. One of these in a room could be a real showstopper. This one would be pretty in a boudoir. It's Ansonia, which is another one of our Connecticut clockmakers. And it says this one's circa 1882. That's rather old for this style. This electric is 1930s. And a nice, very traditional Victorian ebony colored pillar mantel clock. And then a tombstone clock, for obvious reasons. Sometimes being tall helps. I see the Fenton piece, it's $32.50, but this Hanover ware could be interesting. Oh yeah, especially for 1950. They don't realize that Hanover is something to the modernists. I will take this, absolutely. I'm rearranging a little bit so I can get to the little pig trying to get into the outhouse. $14. They're usually called pink pigs, but this one's white. They did do some in white. Made in Germany. Public telephone. Engaged. Someone's already on the phone or whatever they're doing in there. Looks more like an outhouse to me. It's a shame the finish on this isn't better because he is really neat. This is 1930s, the Laughing Elephant, with the little font in there, which has been broken and re-glued, unfortunately. This is Frank art. That's why it's such a great design. $52.50 as is. If you knew how to restore such a thing, it would be worthwhile, but beautiful though. Right out of the 30s. Let's see what else is interesting here. This is rather nice. You could find a pen. This looks like 1950s, and it's 1950. Back here, a little arts and crafts. Tiny pot by Weller, but it's got a crack right there. Old corkscrews with figures do well, and silly and odd and Sirocco wood and all that stuff are fine. So this guy, $9. Yes, I think he'll do. He's got a cleft chin. The Big Ben Moonbeam clock was made and then remade. There's two alarms. One is the ringer and one is the flashing light. Also very helpful for people who are deaf. One of the better Art Deco designs in my opinion, and they sell well. I see some Fenton pieces that are nice in here. I'll have to take a look at prices to see if there's anything I can afford. People used to be afraid of these sprayers because of DDT, but I guess enough time has elapsed they figure it's gone away. In any event, what we're seeing is that these sprayers are really selling well, and this one's $34.95. Flit! It will flit no more after you spray it with that stuff. Look at the cute Viking orange bell for $9 back there. That is going to have to come with me. Let's go Kansas City Athletics before they became the Oakland Athletics. Things that represent teams that are no longer around are generally pretty valuable. This one is $100. So this is Sooner glass, and you see the label there. $29.99. Nice Blanco pinch decanter at $79.99. That's about right. All of this glass seems to be priced about correctly, which is fine for the dealer. This dealer has a fun look to their space. Lots of swag lamps and fun pennants and chandeliers and a modern feel. I do like this piece. Of course I like something huge I can't get in my car. It's priced at $2.95. And it says it's signed by the artist Elaine Miller, Moonflower. It is cool. Viking question mark they have, and you know, all their other glass is priced pretty much as it should be, but this piece, no, this is Italian. And I like the color combination and the castellation, and I'm hoping they give a little dealer discount. I think I might get this. I also really like the Antelope Vases that you see here, and the Gazelle statues, very mid-century. That's got to be 1940s. This one's Shawnee. Wow, $35. That is really sharp looking. I am tempted by that. I have not seen that piece of Shawnee in a really long time, and they have it in two colors, this golden glow as well. Very interesting to me. And then the giraffe vase, also Shawnee. Wow. This is a line I'm not really that familiar with. This is Smart Set by Redwood. What a great mid-century pattern that is. These are McCoy Harmony, also a modernist pattern with the streaks of gold. Stengel did similar patterns, so did some other American potteries of that era. $25 each on those, 1960s. Look at the great McCoy wall pocket with the owls. You almost never see that one. $59, it's a hard one to get. Interestingly enough, none of these have sold recently. Very few of them are listed online, and the two on the left, the antelope, seem to do better than the giraffe. The Egyptian figure, Schaffer and Vater from Germany, in the back there, the pink bisque, that is a really sweet piece, and that is prior to the 1920s enthusiasm for King Tut. So that's an early piece there. And then there's this very interesting, it almost looks like a candlestick phone. Then there's this very interesting piece on the left here. It looks almost like a candlestick phone, but it's actually a barometer in mottled bakelite. And to the right is an antique tin comb and brush holder that you would have had with a little looking glass by the sink, and even little match holders so you could light candles to see yourself. You see the rough part on the little keystone shaped projections coming out there. $42.95 on that. That'll be from 1870, 80. I had this same display and sold it for $55, which is just what they want for it. This swag lamp is very schmaltzy, Hollywood Regency with the gilt. I've got a pile at the desk. I am running out of time. I think I'm going to have to go up and pay for what I got, but I found several pieces in fairly short order. You can do that at Brass Armadillo. It's so big, there's a lot of selection. I am so glad to have you with me. I'm George the Antique Nomad. Catch me on the social media you see listed below, and links to everything, including memberships, my website for appraisals, all that good stuff are in the description. Thanks for watching. Please like and comment, and we'll see you again later. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.